It's always a joy to see returning faces and new members joining us each and every day. I'm Terry Otieno. I'll be moderating this session today. Before we dive in, I would love to just appreciate how far we have come as a community from our recent sessions, especially the immediate last session where we learned about digital literacy and AI integration in business, and we explored how technology can help automate and scale growth. To today's session, which takes us a step further into something which is equally foundational, of course, which is building a strategic brand for business growth. Because as we have learned, tech can amplify what we do, but branding defines who we are and why people choose us. So now to our session tonight, the topic of the session is building a strategic brand for business growth. And our speaker this evening is Nancy Mware. And she will help us get an in-depth understanding on branding as she guides us through what makes branding truly strategic and what makes our identity, especially as people who want to be in the market and do businesses that attract and retain and build trust with customers, as she helps us become more powerful, of course. So in the next 1 minute, I would love us to give some warm virtual welcome to our speaker, who is Nancy. And we can use the reactions to make welcome Nancy as she takes over to speak to us. Yes, karibu sana Nancy, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much, Terry, for welcoming me, or rather bringing me on board. And thank you everyone who is seeking audience with us to have this time and at least learn. I believe we are both learning. I might be an expert, but I might be wrong. The experiences might be different. So feel free to interact, feel free to engage, and feel free to seek more clarifications. Thank you very much. I hope it will be a stepping stone to you as you tackle your businesses, no matter how you handle your businesses. Now, Telespark have been introduced, and I believe by now we know what Telespark is. And I believe we are embracing this platform because in one way or another, it's helping. If you came here as if you didn't have a business idea, then I think it's time you start having some business ideas. But if you came here already having a business idea, I think in one way or another, you are dropping some things you've been doing and picking some. I believe so. And about Telespark, I'll not go much into it because I don't think there is a new member here. Telespark is just a digital forward-thinking solution agency dedicated to helping startups, SMEs, and entrepreneurs build strong brands, thrive online, and scale sustainability. It's an academy that seeks to bridge the opportunity gap and empowering entrepreneurs and business leaders with practical digital business and leadership skills, of which this is majorly what we've been doing. We might have not tackled all of them, but I believe the ones we've tackled are much exhaustive as it is. Yes. So onto the discussion that we have today, which is the business branding, the core, or rather the real heart of marketing. You handle it wrongly, you're gonna get a negative perception about your brand. You handle it, you invest, actually, let me use the word, because very many people sometimes tend to overlook investing in branding. But this is the real blueprint of your marketing. The outcome is how the public will react. Therefore, Business branding is just creating a business identity, either a product or a service, depending with the business you are running, which involves how business wants to be perceived, shaping that perception through consistent messaging, visuals, experiences, and building an emotional connection with its audiences. For a very long time, I could not understand how we are building emotional connections with the audiences. But I'm sure by the end of this session, we shall have understand how we should build the emotional connection with our audiences. We have various types of business branding. Sometimes, as a manager of the business or someone who is running the business, you can choose which one you go for based on what you offer. If it's a product based, then definitely you can use product branding. If it's a corporate branding, like I believe Telespark, soon we're going to start doing corporate branding. It's majorly used by organizations or company. So it's just promoting the brand name of the entire company or organization. A very good example here is Safaricom. Safaricom has sunk deep in our minds as the best service provider, according to how they branded themselves. And actually, if you can look, most of the statistics, Safaricom has stood out as the best branded company. So if you are a corporate based, then Safaricom is your benchmark. Then product branding is basically the product, like that product, be it a pen, a glass, whatever you're offering as a product, is you have to create a unique, a differentiated identity for that product or product. Actually, that service should not be there. So what people see should come into their mind. For example, if we see an apple in the market that has halfly eaten, what will come in your mind? Maybe if you can get some reactions. What will come in your mind is that thing that you and I know, because they took their time. And at least I think I'm sure that we shall give various examples with Apple phones. Personal branding is just strategically managing how an individual is perceived publicly. And this personal branding, if you're coming out as an individual, make sure that you wear your brand. By wearing your brand, I mean that what you're doing and what your brand is should relate. We can talk of Akodi, that's a brand. If we're together, we can get some reactions or the examples of personal branding and the product branding, the best product branding that we have. We have Akodi as the personal branding. A while ago, we had Rao. Who can remember Rao? Rao is also a personal brand. We have the Bespoke City. It's also an emerging one, which is very strong. You can see the owner, how he is behaving. He always wears his suits everywhere, which means you are branding yourselves. So it depends with what you offer. It depends with the approach you're coming from. You just have to have it fully. The one that is somehow complicated to keep on moving with is the corporate branding, but we shall see it. Then the retail branding, which is building a strong perception of a store in the minds of customers. Retail brandings are majorly for the retail shops. For these ones that are being just opened randomly. Yeah, and a good example here can be Naila Baby Shop. These are retail shop, but of course it's a big one, so they have various branches, and you can see how they've really branded themselves. So upon looking at the types of branding, then we have the components that help us to uplift these brands that we are creating. So components of branding are basically 5, or the most key ones are 5, as we are going to look at them, starting with the brand identity. So brand identity, sorry, it's a visual and tangible elements. What comes into our mind How is your brand well identified or well designed? For us to identify your brand, we must use some symbols. And symbols here, I mean logo. A well-designed logo, not just common. Very simple logo, not too much complicated, something that people can memorize very fast and at least refer to you. And you have to define your colors. As you define your colors, you should understand that every color should give you a very good necessary meaning. You don't just choose the color for your brands. You should be able to explain. And at randomly, I chose some of the services that Telespark do offer. And I do not have the consent of the CEO of Nail4 Collections, so I'll not discuss their colors. But I chose this because it's very simple, unique, and it's actually defining the services. What I forgot to mention is that your logo should define who you are. If we choose to block the writings, that is Nail4 Collections, look better, feel good. And we remain with something that sorts of C and N. And we are seeing a bag there. As you continue to interact with the brand, you see a kabag. A kabag most of the time relates with the gifts. What majorly being put in these gifts bags are somehow dresses or something. So I don't know if we can conceal this Nail4 Collection thing so that we remain with this N. With the time, if we just see N, we will know how to relate it. How many knows the logo of the Mercedes cars? It's a circle and a star. If you are together, they can give me a thumbs up. It's a circle and a star. And how is it being associated with something so powerful? Yeah? Like that. So your logo, as you're coming up with your logo, try to understand your logo. I understand that right now we're having a lot of we are having many platforms that helps us in creating logos, but understand, don't just go there, take and edit. Understand what it means. Edit those colors to suit what you want to offer, and you should be able to know that this C color means this, and this is why it was chosen. Deep blue, that's the same, and some sort of gold. And you should also have it recorded somewhere, maybe in your company profile, the color codes, because most of the time these color codes, they vary. You can pick orange, but when you come back tomorrow, it will look like orange, but the color code, you may miss the color code maybe with one letter. So it might not be the exact. So you should always know my color code for C is 111, maybe dash hyphen something, how they are being coded. So just have it somewhere in your company profile. Yeah, that is the number one component of brand strategy. I believe we are together. Then we comes for brand identity. I forgot McKinley, as I was emphasizing on the logo. I might have mentioned it, but still the same. Brand identity is what we associate you with. The tagline. This is what I want to emphasize on, because we talked about the imagery, which is the symbol. The graphics is the outlook. The graphics and style is actually coming from the art design, how you design it. But the tagline, the slogan, make sure that your slogan is, by the way, in branding, simplicity is the order of the day. Simplicity is the order of the day, because we will be able to relate it so fast with what you're doing. So as you've seen up there, the tagline for Nail4 is better services. Can you just revert back a little very fast so that you save on time? Look better, feel good. So if you understand the logo of the Nail4 and you're using their products, you're automatically going to feel better. It's giving you some sort of the order of the company itself, and therefore it should be so as simple as it can, with a lot of authoritative voice in it. Because if it's weak, I didn't think that we were supposed to give a variation of a weak tagline, but that also can lead us to a defamation issues. But anyway, if your tagline is too complicated, people will not always to associate it with what you're doing. And therefore, if it's complicated, for example, if you wear something from Nelfo Collections, you definitely say, I feel good. And that alone is a referral to your friends. So you are marketing the company unknowingly based on how well it was orchestrated. Next. Yes, brand voice and messaging. What is the voice in the brand? Voice first will come from your tagline, and that was what I'm saying. How will people associate with it? The tone, language used should be friendly, professional, and authoritative to build a brand. So if we use something like, we are here because of you, I'll not tell you which company it is for privacy purposes, but we are here because of you. If you associate yourself with such a company, you just feel, at some point I feel that whenever I go there, I surely feel that I will get all my problems solved, because the first reception these people are giving you, they are here because of me. How do they welcome me? That comes with the language. If it's a corporate branding, the personal branding, and the product branding. How well do you associate? How well do you talk to your customers? As we can relate it with these pictures, you can see this first circle here. The lady at the far end, it's really paying much attention. So I don't know who is the audience. I don't know who is the host. She seems someone who is really paying attention, which means you feel valued. When your voice is good, you feel valued. So wale receptionist wenye unaenda anachiu biji, unataka nini? Sio hayuko. That alone is a negative brand, and it will give a negative publicity. So we should monitor our brand, our etiquette, the tone of how we associate with the publics, because that alone carries the order of the day, right? Next. Values and mission. When you talk of values and mission, values are the core values. I believe it's a corporate branding, or rather even the personal branding. Everything has a value. There is what is in your mind that is guiding your order of operation. And its mission, values and mission, we can term them to be vision, which comes from the values, or rather values comes from your vision, what you are envisioning. So what you're envisioning, or rather your ultimate goal, if you break them down into small objectives, as we had last shared, if you can remember the last webinar we had, you will be able to have your values. Like if you go to Huduma centers, the core values for Huduma centers, we have integrity, honesty, and why honesty? Because nowadays we have a lot of social media platforms. So there was an incident that happened in one of the Huduma centers that I will not mention. This woman, she didn't want her SHAs to be registered for SHA, and therefore she insisted that she should not be there. But if you happen to work in one of these Huduma centers, there is a way they record your details and then they refer you to the desk that will offer the services. So she was given that a notification note that you are here by consent. But now she didn't know that message did not mean anything. So when she went to Shades, she started complaining, why am I being registered? So you see, the value there was the honesty and the integrity. So these other people were trying to explain to her that the message is not there. And she very first took her phone and started recording that, oh, these people, they've registered me here by force. I don't want. So it's really contradicting your values if you cannot explain your order of the day. So your values should be clear, well articulated from your vision, and the objectives, of course, as we well saw last time, and the mission. Yeah, the brand experience. This will take us back to what I was talking about, the reception. Some receptions are very rude. My first job, I was a receptionist, and that's where I realized that Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. Some receptions are very, very rude. Receptionists. You go there, after getting the job, you feel that after getting that job and sitting in that office, that's all. But rather, you have a lot, because receptionists, or rather the front office people, they carry a lot of weight from the company. Whatever they do to you, pale kwa receptionist at KBC by then is what will make you judge or negatively judge or positively judge. Because umekuja, I'm chewing a bulgum, I'm not well groomed. What will you say? These people, they are not working well. Mara oh. And if it's a private sector, you can easily choose another sector, because now the way you are being received, everyone always prefers some very nice accolades at first glance. So if your first interaction with me is very negative, definitely that will turn you off. And if it's a private sector, you may not willing to come back because the experience. So the experience comes from a lot and very many things, because right from how your website is designed, how your staffs are interacting with the external publics, and how your product is being used. You're supposed to explain it so well, because if you have a very complicated product, I'll have a negative perception about it. And if it's just consuming my money, I'll not come back. And at the end of the day, everyone loves their value for money. So if you allow me, the website navigation is also very key. Some websites are also very complicated. You click on the readme hover button, but they keeps on redirecting you. At the end of the day, you are going to waste a lot of time and you'll get bored. So if you have an alternative option, that's where you are going to very fast, because simply the website is very complicated, and therefore it's easily you will give a negative referral to your friend. Our website haifanyi, you've lost a client. So let's try to understand our brand and how it works, and let's try to be simple. Ambiguous words do not show some sort of eloquency, but the message stands, and the message speaks a lot about it. And now, from the brand experience, we'll give the perception that I keep on mentioning. Let me give a very plain example. If you are interacting with your friend, and whenever you need the friend, he or she is not there. Whenever she needs you, then she's available. The perception would be she's busy for me. Or let's even use, no, I don't want to use that example. You will say she's busy for me. Whenever you want her, she's an excuses. Oh my, oh. So you feel that that's you already make a conclusion that she's busy. She doesn't have my time. So you will easily go for someone who has your time, who is able to listen to you. And that's the same thing how these brands work. If my interaction with your staffs, if say for example a service based, even hostels or hotels, something like that, if your interaction with me is very questionable, trust me, I'll not come back. And I'm sure that's not for me alone, that's for very many people. If you go to an hotel and the waiter is not busy, you can easily go, because they're not giving you their time. And so long as there is a negative perception about your brand, believe me, you must have a decline in your progress, in your chart progress, if you've been keeping track of it. Because, and as you said last time, that one bad client or one negative client will take away 10 more, but one good client will bring in 10 more good clients. That was the only tagline I was left with. So try as much, and that's why they say that the client, or rather the customer, is always right. Even if you can feel so much agitated sometimes, because some of them tend to be very rowdy, but you just have to contain them to avoid the aftermath. So let's maintain this one, but at least we secure the 10 more, rather than giving the person a very bad approach, and then he's also going to make a very bad comments about that. Especially with the rise of the social media nowadays, you can be very careful, because you don't know who is who. Sometimes some of them have a lot of followers over the social media, and just one statement about your brand, you are dead. So let's try to monitor how we interact for us to manage a very good brand perception and a very good positive publicity out there. So after we've mastered how the brand steps, how they work, components rather, we define what we call brand strategy, because now we understand the types of brand we are going for. We've understood the components, and therefore we can easily develop one. Because brand strategy is a comprehensive long-term plans that outline how a company will build, communicate, and strengthen its brand to achieve a specific business goals. You have to master, are you coming from a corporate brand approach, personal brand approach, product brand approach, and what have you? And you know the components of brand, what you are aiming for, which is value and mission, or you are the perception out there, the interaction. So after you've understood all those, and therefore you are, I believe at this point you have a clear understanding of who your audiences are, and therefore you'll be able to have a good orchestrated brand strategy that is going to help you. And brand strategies, we don't just choose them, they also have some types that can best suit your business. So you just don't choose them at random, you check what works for you and what do not work. At some point, they can require an amalgamation of various brand strategies that is also very good. So you have to look at them very keenly as we're gonna elaborate further. So the first step is the purpose-driven brand strategy. A purpose-driven brand strategy simply focusing on the mission instead of the product. And on the mission is basically the value of what you are offering. Actually, the value. Before I check the returns, what is the value of my clients? Which is very, very important. And for a very long period, Nike's shoe had a very simple logo, which is just a simple tick. So tick, it means approval. And therefore, if you are there, you are nice. You are nice. Actually, they just distorted this word a little to make it Nike. But when they are coming up with the shoes, the women rubber shoes for exercises, they just started Dream Crazy. Dream Crazy came from the perception that they were thinking at some point, the heavy boots will not allow women to run so fast. If you delve deep in this thing, you will get what I'm telling you. So they came up with this thing as a way of selling their purpose. So before you go for my product, remember that which purpose are you looking for? So the purpose is what will give me nexus to your product, actually. So it's not in this purpose-driven brand strategy, focus keenly on the purpose, and all your marketing strategies, all your brand strategies should focus on the purpose. The purpose itself will link the customer to what you're offering. And I will still use the iPhones. iPhone is also a well planned example of purpose because it speaks quality. So if you need a high-tech camera phone, I don't think anyone will go for any other brand that I don't want to mention. But you know very well, iPhone will give me the best that I need. And then the brand extension strategy, that is a strategic use of core brand strength to enter new market. Core brand strength is for example, Telespark, when it first began, a couple of webinars that we've started, it started as a corporate organization that is coming up with services, and that is why they offered the Nail 4 logo. Actually, that one was done by Telespark. So along the way, they started with that as the strength, which means the idea behind this is that was what they could offer best. In the way, along the way, as you do your market analysis and understand more about the market, you realize that I should expand. So they decided they bring on board the webinar sessions that we are doing right now. So you see, it's like you are using your key anchor point to leverage about your surrounding. So that's all about brand extension strategy. Start with your greatest point. Your greatest point. Start with it, gain experience, monitor how it's going. Then from there, you stretch as a bit as you go on. Then the personal brand is simple, as we had mentioned it, is a building a brand around a specific individual. And we talked about Bespoke City, and I am sure that's well understood. Unless there is a question somewhere. You can just have them on the chat box. And I'd ask also about the personal brands. Another type of brand strategy is a product branding. Product branding strategy, sometimes it confuses with the corporate branding. So it depends. And creating a unique identity and a brand name for each product separate from the corporate brand. I want to give an example of a company. If you check NCA website, that is National Construction Authority, there is a logo of the NCA. And within that website, there is another bar that is written CEA. CEA means Construction Excellence Award. So if you interact with that website, you will realize that NCA has their logo and CEA has their logo, but it's still working under the same umbrella. So let me give another example with Telespark. Telespark has their logo, and they can choose to launch another product-based business, or rather giving a service. And it's something that can go a long way, rather for a long term. So they choose to have it, to have another logo serving that specific. It's not two companies, get me well, it's not two companies. It's just you have the umbrella, as for example, we have the logo of the Telespark. Then you think, for example, they can even invent on a research hub. So they have another research hub that is working directly under Telespark. So this research hub is just a room of researchers that are doing their own things, but it works directly. So when they win outside there, they carry the name of Telespark and now not the research hub logo. So you can sometimes employ the product branding strategy when you already have a big company, but you think of inventing some new, or rather you want to stretch out in your reach. So you bring in on board another thing. It's just yours. It's just under the same company, but it's totally a new service, or rather a new product. It's like just expanding. I hope you get me well. Again, we have the disruptor brand strategy. Disruptor brand strategy, sometimes you have to be very careful with it because it can go well with you and it can mislead you. So it's an innovation that introduces a new business model or a technology. So it's like advancing from the previous step that you are in. If you check Netflix, for example, Netflix nowadays has overwritten a lot of the compact disc. If you can remember ile wakati yenye people could buy, unaenda wapi, you buy ile CD ya 50 bob, ile compact disc, usha buy. And I can remember my father had a lot, 2 big albums of those CDs. I don't think nowadays someone can go in the street and buy. So Netflix disrupted the already existing market of the compact discs. So you can also choose to invent something, an improvement of what is already existing in the market. And therefore you have to be very careful because that is a strong competition in the market. Another thing in Nairobi right now, we have many Airbnbs. Many Airbnbs with the time will outdo the normal lodging. Because if you go to an Airbnb, number one thing, you are sure of your privacy, if it's love affairs or whatever thing, rather than just walking, you two people pairing and walking along the hallway of the hotel that is there. So Airbnb will give you the privacy. You cook there, you with your partner, or if it's just accommodation issues, but you are sure. And now their services, it's a little more uplifted compared to the hotel. That's what we mean by disruptor brand strategy. Even Uber, with the time, it's somehow expensive for now, but with the time, taxis will go down kidogo. It can actually relegate the matatus so low because Uber, it picks you right from your door to where you're going. And if you're not comfortable with matatus like me, you'll definitely go for Uber most of the time. So you're just advancing. If you're going for this approach, you're just advancing the already existing business. And that's why I said sometimes it can work well with you, sometimes it cannot, because the competition is very key. Then content first brand strategy is just creating contents to the social media platforms, as many are doing, because social media right now is also emerging so very fast. So we have to be serious with it. After we've understood how that works well, then we can develop our own. Why not? We can try. Number one step is define your business goals. And up to now, I believe we know what business goals are and how we can define them. What do you want to achieve? That's all about your business goal. The ultimate vision. You still go back to the vision and the mission of your business. Then you will have your business goal. And remember last time we talked about we have the long-term goal, and then we break them down into the objectives that finally will have the business plan as we articulated it last time. So after defining your business goals, then you know your audiences. I believe by then you shall have done a very thorough research on your audiences, and therefore you understand my target audiences are these people. This is what they need. This is how I can reach them, and this is how my message can be well crafted for them to understand. So conduct research to understand their needs, plans, and desires. Then at stage 3, you find your differentiation. In differentiation, you can choose to use UVP or you can choose to use UVP just means unique value proposition, or rather you can use the unique selling points, the USP. And last times we said USPs, you can even choose to use the after selling services. For example, we gave an example with Penda Hospitals where they can be doing a lot of follow-ups. Is the drug working? How are you feeling? If you happen to go to Penthouses, I believe you've experienced such. So what makes you different in the market? Remember, you're not alone in this market, and what will make you stand out very strongly? If, for example, if you choose to use the disruptor brand strategy, it's very tough, and therefore you have to have a very good UVP that will make you stand out in the market. Then at stage 4, you craft your brand story and messaging, as we've had earlier there, the brand tone. How is your tone? How is your tagline? Is it simple? Does it can it give me like an overview of what you're doing? Define your purpose, value, and differentiator into a compelling narrative way. Yes. Then at stage 5, we have you design now your identity. This is where you're going to incorporate the use of symbol and colors to create something that can easily stick in people's mind. Create the visual and verbal assets that bring the strategy to life, the real implementation of it all. Then you implement consistency. Remember, when you starting something is always not a walk in the park. You can start, at some point, you can be discouraged and feel like giving up, but please no, do not give up. Those are the challenges. So if you start with the social media, make sure that you're consistent with it. Make sure that you keep on updating your website. Your packaging level should be uniform to speak that consistency. Because if you have this package today, tomorrow you give us another package with a different color somehow, it will not give us the consistency we have. Remember, if you keep on emphasizing on something, it will stick in people's mind, and therefore it could be easily relatable to what you're doing. Then measure and adapt. Finally, overcome all the challenges. Then you will measure the first step, track, as we did the market analysis last time. I believe you understand, and therefore you can really measure. You do the checks and balances of your stage, and you know what to drop, you know what to adapt, and you know how you maneuver yourself within. Finally, a brand strategy aligns every market effort and business decision to build a valuable, cohesive brand. So make sure that whatever you're doing, it's something that will give you a very great value that you are seeking for. And of course, in many businesses, or rather even the services, the unique value here is the return. If the returns are massive, we're going to see you in the market for a very long time. But if the returns are low, definitely we are going to part ways and say goodbye. And that marks the end of my presentation. And I welcome the questions.
Thank you so much, Nancy, for that rich and practical presentation. I think we can all agree that that was a very clear background of what branding really is, from building a solid brand identity and voice to understanding brand experience and the strategies that actually make a business stand out. I think what really stood out for me is that branding isn't just design, it's purpose, it's consistency, experience, and simplicity all woven together. So when all these things align, then a brand begins to live in people's minds. And I just remembered that we can all think of how amazing some brands like, let's say, Colgate and Omo have become so dominant that they represent entire product categories. Like people, especially those from African homes, we don't just say toothpaste, we'll say Colgate. We don't just say detergent, we'll say home. So it's about how those brands have stood out over time until we have lost the product categories and we've started speaking about the brands. So we're just getting into the question and answer session, which I think should be one of the most exciting parts of our session, because at least you can get to ask the questions that perhaps are lingering in our minds. So for those who have questions, you can go ahead and drop your questions in the chat. And if you'd like to ask your question directly, please raise your hand. And I believe I'll call on you to ask the question. And as we begin, I'll open with a few questions to help frame our discussion. And then we'll take it from the chat as we go along, and even from those who have lifted their hands. So, from your experience, Nancy, what's one branding mistake that small businesses most often make?
Come up again.
From your experience and interaction, especially with branding and marketing, what is this branding mistake that small businesses make in their branding?
Small businesses is lack of a clear plan. By lack of a clear plan, I mean you do not understand your target audience. And remember, with the tone and the messaging, it's well focusing on your audiences. So if you do not understand your audiences very well, you're going to make the mistake. And if I can give an example, how do you think these people do advertise cartoons? Can you advertise cartoons with the language, with the teens' language? Definitely not. And if I can give you a live experience, if you ever take your child to a pediatric hospitals, what is always that the waiting bay? It's always some sort of a small playground and a TV that shows the cartoons, right? Which means at that particular point, of course, through the guardian, but the main target audience are the children. So how are you maintaining them? And for very many times, when I wanted to take my son to the hospital, he only know the existing hospital was Gertrude's. And when I took him to a metropolitan hospital that is there in Buruburu, he started saying that is not the hospital. Actually, he told me that, Mom, which hospital are we in today? Because, hospitals should have cartoon and hospitals should have a playground. So small businesses, or rather the retail, it's lack of understanding your audience. Which language are you using? Upon understanding your audiences so well, how you're gonna how you're gonna plan for your brand strategy or brand messaging will be contingent upon your reach in the market. If you really understand me, then I believe that is the way to go. Start with understanding your audience, then know how can I get them. For example, say if your business is majorly targeting on Gen Zs, then you don't need to look any longer. You just go to the social media. You are sure of the reach, and then you incorporate a little sharing in it. You cannot just start using research terms, or rather more professional terms, to audiences that are not, for example, to Gen Zs. It will be boring, and you cannot use sheng to your to elderly people, as if you are maybe advertising the, what can you advertise for elderly people that is specifically for them? Can you give me one? What you can advertise for elderly people? Maybe a walking stick. How can you advertise a walking stick to a Gen Z? It will get boring, right? Terry, are we communicating?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So for me, based on my experience and interaction, it's a lack of understanding your market. Understand your market, know where you're going to get them, then plan your message based on how they are, not how you feel. Nowadays, I even saw last time KRA, when they were releasing the press of the gentleman that the Lake Basin issue, they used shame in it. Of course, they released an official press release, but again, in their media platforms, you are seeing some sort of shame, and there is also another thing that KRA did, that they used shame. So it all depends with your market audiences. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Nancy. As you were speaking, something just came to mind, especially during the presentation, and how you illustrated how some brands that we never wanted to mention fail, especially in their branding. Do you think there are second chances, especially for a branding that has failed?
Sorry,
And
there are what?
second chances, like, do they have another chance to rebrand? And how best can they go about it, especially after they have maybe made an attempt to create
You
a brand that is, I'm not
you
clear.
have Yeah, no, you are clear, but you have the answer already. I want to give you examples with banks. For very many time, we had Barclays Bank. What do you really think made Barclays Bank to be rebranded to Sanlam that we are having now? Then Sanlam was there for a while. Then they got to, there is also the third brand that actually worked for them. What was happening with the Barclays Bank, this one I'm very sure of, was because Barclays Bank started as a high profile bank, as a very high profile bank. And therefore, they did not wanted these people with small savings. So if you go there, want to save 100 bob, they could blankly tell you that we save much. So when Equity Bank came, Equity was welcoming even one bob, if you can remember, and that's why Equity dominated in these small scale businesses. Mama Mboga can easily save in Equity Bank. So when Barclays Bank realized that they are losing track, they rebranded so that they are coming in with entirely something new that people do not know. But in with this, they are trying to incorporate the new market strengths that are actually working within their competitors. So yes, there is a second chance. Do not be so rigid. Sometimes you have to use resilience in it. So you can rebrand so that in our minds we know this is a new thing, but deep down within you, you know it's the same thing. Ninguo to may change. Change that. If you are a sporty person and then you realize you cannot have a sporty attire in a conference room, and therefore you are being eliminated, you do what? Go and come with a suit. It's the same person. Terry will not change, but this time Terry is on 8-inch high heels with well-groomed hair, vis-a-vis the short hair that was there, the sporty attire that was there. So actually, that's what happened to Barclays, and that's how we ended up with Sanlam, and therefore they also rebranded the brand that is actually working up to date. They set their bar so high, they did not understand well how their market was, and therefore they tend to overlook these small businesses. So when they realized, when the equity came on board and everyone almost shifted, so if I have 50 bob, I can still take it to the bank. So these people they lost the trend, and therefore they rebranded themselves. So yes, there is a second chance.
Awesome. I can't find questions in the chat box. I'm not sure the audience is as satisfied or people want to speak for themselves. Anyone who has a question? And as I'm waiting for the question, maybe one last question from my end would be, if someone here is just starting to build their personal brand, what is the very first step that you would advise them to take in order to be able to build a lasting, something that will last in people's minds?
Number one, in that your personal brand, define what you want to do. So, for example, if you want to sell head wraps, make sure that wherever you are going, you have that head wrap within you. Terry, are we together? Have multiple, match them with your attire, and then start creating yours. Be creative. Start by buying the ones that are existing. And of course, you have to use social media, Sahi. And make your content be talking about your head wraps. That's just an example, though hypothetical. Your head wraps matched with your attire. And therefore, you are telling people that if you also want to match your head wrap, you can DM. Okay? That's now, you have already started your journey. So with the time, you watch and see how market is actually improving. And therefore, you definitely develop a full personal brand about the head wraps. So just define what you want to do and make sure you start doing it. Bespoke City, it's a personal brand. We both know the owner, and this guy, I don't think he buys clothes somewhere else apart from just making them naturally. And therefore, but then their tagline is very simple: Fundi ni moja, Africa. Sindio, Terry? Terry, let's talk because you should be
Yeah.
responding. Yeah, fundi ni moja Afrika, sindio? So if you want, it's like there is no any other tailor in Kenya, or rather in Africa. So if you want a good tailor, you know the Bespoke City. And actually it's working. You can even see how they are even funny with their tagline. Fundi ni moja Afrika. It's not even English. So you do not get so formal in your strategies. Understand your market and therefore have it as fun. Blend some Kiswahili in it, but of course there are some points that you have to go for more, like for example when coming up with the company's constitution or profile or something like that. Yeah. So just define what you want to do. Start by doing it, start by owning it, and start by wearing what it is. If it's food, or rather if it's packaging, like you are trying to package these brand names on the articles, wewe mwenyewe, make sure ni whatever you carry is branded with your company. Even if you're the only one, there is a book that I read that was telling me, run and run so hard that even if you're the only one who knows where you're going, then keep running. If you're going to south and everyone is coming from south to north, please make sure you get to south and see why people are getting out. Maybe why they are getting out is the reason you are seeking for. So start by branding yourself and own your brand. Is it well answered?
Yeah, thank you. So I invite other questions from the audience. Or should we assume that we are satisfied? Or should I give each and every one of us an opportunity to ask a question? Thank you, Billy. I'm not sure it's a reaction or it's a hand lifted up. Do you have a question or you're just reacting? Okay. Now that we don't have questions, I would love to first thank the speaker. Thank you so much. That has been a good session. Those are such valuable insights. Thank you. I will just hand it over to the CEO to pick it from where we are. And I believe that we've all picked lessons. What stands out for me is that it can be as simple. You don't have to be as ambiguous. It can be as simple. Just remembering that there was a time Safaricom was using Tuaweza. Tuaweza is just a word. Of course, it got into the market to communicate what was in their desire. Yes, so thank you so much for that session. I have picked my lesson and I believe they will be of much importance moving forward. Karibu sana Bonke, you can take it up from here. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining, and to everyone who created time, thank you. Thank you to you, Nancy and Terry, for speaking and for moderating respectively. Yeah, and everyone who joined, thank you very much. We are building a robust community, professionals who will check the market for the better. I'm seeing a question here by one of us. Maybe I'll attempt to dissect it, then I will end in the next few minutes. He says that how can startups create a strong identity with the limited resources? Where money cannot take you, sometimes strategy can take you. Yeah, you don't have to have millions. You only have to have the right idea and to know what to start with and what to do next. And above all, appreciating the place of starting small. So it would be as simple as identifying your colors. So for example, the colors that we do use, they symbolize the core of our existence. Yeah, maybe another session we'll get time to explain to you what our colors stand for. Yes, so get your colors right, get your symbols right, the logo, get them right, and to give you the right positioning into the market. Yes. So we have an academy and would like to remind us all that seeking to bring us on board to experience or rather to join our specialized sessions where we provide now these and much more at a personal level. So if you're looking for AI tools for workflow automation or brand optimization, digital marketing, or simply you want your logos made, or simply get started with whatever you'd want to start with in your business, will be there to happily guide you on the way. Yes, so you're welcome, and we'll be glad to have you join us. Yes, so that marks end of our session. We will be reaching out to you guys anytime from now to say hello and get to hear one or two from you on how we could make things better and provide an unforgettable experience as we sail through. Yes, so thank you for joining, and we hope you will you'll find time and create time to join our programs that we are launching anytime from now. Yes, the graphic design sessions, the digital marketing courses, we will have them up and running, the project management. Yes, so be on the lookout for those announcements, and we believe it will transform your entrepreneurial adventure for the good of you and those you're seeking to impact. Yes, so I'm delighted to see you all, and thank you for having joined. Yes, have a good night, everyone.